If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Memorial Day sale and get 30% off paints and stains May 16th through the 26th. With prices starting at $34.29, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your bedroom, living room, or home office, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, thank you everybody for joining me live. I'm again Ted Odorico, your host, and very excited to have a great show lineup tonight. We're going to have a special Coach's Corner panel. We're not going to have the traditional panel that I normally have. We're going to have actually a very special guest, and she's brought some guests with her, if you will, to join in the conversation tonight. And of course, I'm talking about my good friend, head professional at the Landings Club in Savannah, Georgia, Nicole Weller. I'll tell you a little bit about her in just a moment. And a little bit later on the broadcast, I'm going to be joined by another good friend, Peter Kessler. He's a golf announcer known as The Voice. You may recall some of his earlier days on the Golf Channel. He was the original host, if you will, of the Golf Channel when it first started up in the 90s. And he's doing lots of great things now. But he's going to be joining me on. It's actually rescheduled from May 2nd. He was supposed to be on then and had a little bit of an issue, and I'll explain that a little bit later on in the show. But I want to thank everybody for joining me live here tonight, and I appreciate you all listening in. And just a couple of quick announcements, and then I'm going to introduce Nicole and bring her and some of the other guests that are ready to go, and then we'll start tonight's special Coach's Corner panel. But first, I want to just acknowledge our sponsor for Coach's Corner, of course, golfswing.com. They come on board again this season. They're going to be sponsoring the Coach's Corner panel segment here on Golf Talk Live, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them and about a special offer that we have for the listeners here on Golf Talk Live. Golfswing.com, with its cutting-edge technology, have teamed up alongside some of the best golf instructors, coaches, and swing gurus in the business. Together, they have created one of the best video teaching and training online platforms in golf, period. If you're ready to break 100, 90, 80, or even 70, then join their online video academy and learn from some of the best. In addition to sponsoring the Coach's Corner segment, every week I'm going to post a different golf instructional video tip. I'll be featuring a video from another top instructor after the broadcast. Actually, I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm going to actually do it tomorrow night. And it'll feature each week. I'll have a different video training tip, one of the segments from their online video academy. Very, very well done, and some great coaches that are included in there. The special offer that I was talking about to all of the listeners of the show, if you at checkout, if you enter the promo code Golf Talk Live, they are giving a special 50% reduction off of the subscription price. So if you go to golfswing.com after the show and check out their online subscription offer and enter the promo code Golf Talk Live, you'll earn 50% off the subscription price. It's well worth it. They've got some great golf instruction tips there. Literally thousands of videos online. They're one of the best in the business. So join golfswing.com today and watch, practice, and improve your game. A little bit later on, before Peter comes on, I'm going to play a short audio clip from golfswing.com to tell you a little bit more about them as well. All right, as I mentioned, I've got a special Coach's Corner panel lined up here tonight. First and foremost, of course, again, my good friend, Nicole Weller. As I mentioned, she's the head professional at the Landings Club in Savannah, Georgia. She's also a member of the LPGA's Teaching and Club Professionals, as well as the PGA of America. She served on the LPGA USGA Girls Golf of Savannah Board, 2 terms on the PGA National Youth Player Development Committee and the LPGA Education Committee, the PGA Special Awards Committee, and is co-author of the LPGA Girls Golf Playbook and a proud partner with both Little Linksters and the Littlest Golfer. Nicole is also a U.S. Kids Master Kids teacher and is certified with U.S. Kids Golf and Spirit of Golf. She was given this prestigious honor of being the first professional to receive both the 2013 PGA and LPGA National Junior Golf Leader Awards in the same year, and was listed on the 2017 LPGA Women's Golf Journal inaugural LPGA Top 50 Teachers list. She also helped coordinate the U.S. Kids Golf Instructor Certification Seminar for U.S. Kids Golf, at the Landings Club back in December 2016, where she hosted 30 of her fellow professionals. So in addition to that, we're also going to be joined by Mrs. Andy McKeever, Mr. Andrew Barber, and Dr. Jay Goldstein, and they're on board as well right now. So Nicole, Andy, Andrew, and Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, so Nicole, I'm going to start with you first, as I mentioned off air, with just a few questions, and I'm going to bring the parents in. Actually, what I'm going to back up here for a second. Why don't you explain who some of the other guests are, and part of the reason why we brought them on the show tonight.
Sure thing, Ted. And again, thanks for having me on the show. This is turning into one of my major holidays of the year, so I'm going to add you into a major holiday. It's fun, and I appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to it. And joined by 3 of our very special youth golf parents. Andy and Jay and Andrew are all parents of youth golfers who play at the Landings Club, and they support a lot of our programming, but also kind of help us shape it. So their comments and their ideas help us kind of direct where we want to go, because as staff, we usually have ideas, but it's really about a team effort. And so their kids are playing in a lot of events. Some are national, some are local, and it's just really neat to see their involvement and their enthusiasm, and they're like family. So we really appreciate them being here and sharing their thoughts on what it's like to be a parent, maneuvering through the world of youth sports, doing everything else they do in life.
Right. And again, thank you guys for joining us tonight as well. I appreciate, and we're looking forward to some of your thoughts and input into the show as well. I think one of the things, Nicole, and you hit it right on the head, is, it's sort of a navigation, if you will, in the sporting world for parents. Their children have different hobbies and interests, golf, of course, being one of them in this particular case. And there's a lot of a juggling act, if you will. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But first, I want you just to explain a little bit about some of the programs that you offer, that maybe some of their children are involved with, just as an example, just so that the other parents that might be listening to the show tonight get a kind of an overall flavor of what it is that you're talking about.
Okay, sure. Well, we do several different programs throughout the club, and we try to involve play, and we try to involve education and give the kids a chance to get out and do a lot of things. So we have a 6-week spring and a 6-week fall youth academy designed for the kids who are playing more of like the PGA Junior League and maybe playing in some local, state, and national tournaments, just so they can get out, keep playing, and compete against each other in that venue and keep their energies up. We have a summer youth golf academy that lasts for a week. We're about to do a drive chip putt practice for anybody who wants to get ready to compete in the local qualifier. And we try to do things throughout the year to pepper in, like we tried our first Ryder Cup Invitational, and we had a qualifier for 2 spots. We hosted the Web.com Tour Savannah Golf Championship at our club, and so we had 2 spots that were open for youth to play in the Pro-Am. So we held a little qualifier for that, and that's been really fun to see evolve. So programs that go on throughout the year, and then some special events, and we're always there for them. And some days I'll see them on the range after I finish cleaning up and head over and maybe challenge the kids to a shot. So I think I am currently – One of the children has the record, but I think I'm down at least by 1 or 2 for this year. So I'm working. It keeps my game in shape to try to keep up with them.
Yeah, I can imagine it does. Well said. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole, I want to ask you something as well, because just to clarify this, because the age range obviously can vary, but in a lot of cases you're talking about very, very young children. We're not necessarily talking about, 12 and 13 and up years of age. In many cases, some of the kids that you've worked with are much younger than that. So, what do you do to sort of keep their interest? Because as I'm sure the parents will concur, they can get distracted very easy. So how do you find a balance of keeping them engaged and keeping it fun and interesting at a young age? And just give it an idea of some of the age groups that you're working with.
Sure, and especially with what's come out with, inspired through PGA with the new ADM model, American Development Model, and it gives the professionals and the industry a really great idea of what's appropriate at what age. So we're always looking to advance, and we're going to look at our age groups and see that we're kind of in line with what research has designed for when's too young for competition and when's a good time to do this and that. So the guests who are on, their children are pretty much 8 to, I would say, 11 or 12, 13-ish, so in that age group. But I work with 2 to 3s, 4 to 5, 6 to 12, 6 to 10, depending on the program, and then older. So we group them in that way. But anything 5 or 6 and younger, no serious competition at all. Not recommended at all. The kids are just not ready for that. Maybe developmentally, physically, they can, but cognitively, socially, not a good thing to have. The big rewards and the trophies and this and that. So we do more of team events and. Especially as they start with a little bit of competition like PGA Junior League, that's a little bit more of a recreational competition, just getting them started. And then as they get into the other divisions and maybe going to U.S. Kids local events or, some of the city and state and the nationals, trying to help support them, with individual lessons or opportunities like the academy so they can keep their skills sharp.
Right. And I already know the answer because, you've been on the show many times and talked about this. And as you sort of alluded to, at this age, whether it be, 2 and 3 or 5 to, 6 age bracket, you're not really getting serious about golf at that point. You're just really there to have fun and more or less expose them to the game because they're really not developed enough in most cases. There might be some exceptions, but to really get into a more thorough challenge, if you will. So really what you're trying to do at that age is just sort of expose them to the game and find out the level of interest. And then obviously as they progress through the different programs, then you get a little bit more involved. Is that pretty accurate, do you think?
I think that would be very accurate, yes. And checking out like PGA.coach and the American Development Model and seeing at what age is appropriate to do certain things and introduce, even fitness and working out and what they can handle at certain ages is important. So we may see the models and tournaments, change a little bit, but that's pretty spot on.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things, obviously, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. You might get a little, let's look at Tiger Woods. He's been putting around since he was 3 years old, but, that was a little bit different scenario. Most kids at that age, they're doing other things as well, and again, their attention span may not always be, as long as what you would need to really focus into some of the fundamentals in that of golf, and you're not really talking about that. I want to talk, before we get into some of the questions for the parents, I want to ask you about the parents in specific and as far as your programs are concerned. Many other activities out there, more often than not, the parents will sort of drop their kids off and they'll engage in that activity. How much commitment or how much involvement do the parents have in your programs, if at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it varies. There are some that, they want to drop the kids off for a good golf experience and to learn a little bit and get out there and more exercise and an activity to do for that season. So they will be kind of the drop-off and pick-up parents. And then we have parents like the ones who are on now who, if we need some extra help on a PGA Junior League team or can you help drive during one of our practices, they want to be involved. And I think that's so cool and it helps our program do what it needs to do. So, seeing them get out there is important. And when we have lessons, I can tell when there's some really eager parents and I really like to have some time with the kids. Maybe I'll do a quick, chat with the parents at the beginning, but I want the child to have a really good learning environment, a safe environment, not one where they're constantly looking over their shoulder for approval, or we'll hear parents and sometimes grandparents yelling out some ideas like keep your head down or make sure you're listening or this, so they keep interjecting themselves in the lesson, and it all comes from a good place in the heart. They want to help and they want to be assistants, and that's cool, but sometimes it definitely is not a good thing to help the progress, and it's the opposite of what we're trying to teach. So I like to reconvene after and go over the notes and even use programs like Coach Now or Edify to help, keep people updated on what we're doing and the verbiage we're using. So I know some of the students that are on, actually everybody who's on tonight knows that app. So hopefully it's helpful to keep everybody on the same page. But like you were mentioning with young children, there's so much research on burnout and early injuries. And, golf is a one-sided sport. So, you have to train different things. You should be doing different sports. You want to develop the children as an athlete and then apply it to golf. So it's really important not to overdo it. And just because we see potential in a child, we have to figure out what is their pace. And like Kate, whose dad's on tonight, you put her down and watch her go. And we're seeing like Hunter and Noah start exploding with what they're doing and their scores, and they kind of come out at their time, and it's just neat to see. And EA and Lawson are doing a wonderful job with Junior League. I think their third season, so they're really all pitching in at different levels.
Yeah, and I think it's important to. And I know it's sometimes, for the parents, they want to be involved and they want to, as you said, that it comes from a good place in the heart. But as you said, sometimes it can be a little intimidating for the child to know that their parents are sort of injecting themselves too much into the program. They want to go there and have fun and not feel like they're looking, as you said, looking for approval. I want to ask the parents something, and I'm going to go ladies first. Andy, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind, and then Jay, and then Andrew. It's essentially the same question for each of you, and that is, as Nicole and I have just mentioned, there's a lot of other activities out there. Obviously, golf is something that all of you are interested in, so naturally you want to introduce your child or children to that activity as well, and hopefully that'll take root. But how much, Andy, how much time does golf fit into the family schedule? I mean, it's a busy schedule that families have nowadays, and with soccer and all these other sports that compete with golf, how do you find time to sort of fit that into your schedule?
Well, I mean, it's really a team effort. My husband and I both work, so we kind of have to tag team to get the kids to different events. But, like anything in life, you make time for the things that you enjoy. So we kind of carve out that time because it is special. The kids enjoy it. We enjoy watching them grow and develop. So I don't think it's all that difficult, especially if you're working together to get them to the different activities.
Right. And again, it's a matter, obviously, of what their interest level is in certain other sports. If they have a higher interest in something else, and obviously you're going to want to, as a parent, you're probably going to want to lean towards that, and hopefully golf is in that realm. Jay, what about yourself with your children? Obviously, golf is something that I'm assuming that you enjoy playing, and you would like to see your kids, be involved in that. Again, is it sort of a juggling act with your family? And, what happens one day if they decide, golf's just not for me? Are you going to look in another direction, or are you going to sort of stick it out and try to continue to encourage them?
Yeah, I can tell you that my kids so far, they've really developed a love for the game, and they've really enjoyed themselves with the game, and so I think it's going to stick with them. We definitely have other activities, soccer, tennis, basketball, so they're doing other activities, and so depending on the sport and the season, we will slow down with some of the golf, but we continue to go out there and play and practice a little bit. From a time crunch, my wife and I, we both work, but I will tell you, my wife, who's never played golf or been around golf, has learned a lot in the last couple of years, and now she loves it and loves going out and being a caddy for my younger one. So it's been kind of a fun family experiment and experience.
Well, thank you for that as well, Jay. Andrew, before I get to you, let me just add, I think that one of the things that, and Nicole, you and I have talked about this, and I'm going to make a quick note about you in just a second here, something I forgot to mention. I think the younger that we can expose them to golf, the better. And again, it's up to them to what degree that they want to pursue it at some point, whether they want to play competitive golf or whether they just want to have fun. But, I think it's just getting them out there and introducing them to the game, because really golf is at a bit of a disadvantage to many other sports because it's not in the general curriculum of most school programs until you get it to certain levels. So, some kids don't get exposed to golf until much later in life, and by that time it's, a little harder. One thing I wanted to mention, Nicole, and I don't know whether you realize, this show has been on for 7 years. You were my very first guest on the program several years ago, and you've been back every year, so this is number 7 for you.
Thank you.
Just
That's why it's a national holiday, so yes, I love it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, Andrew, what about yourself? Obviously, you have children that are involved in golf, and I'm assuming, obviously, you enjoy playing golf as well. What's been some of the feedback as far as, golf as an activity in your family for the younger ones? Obviously, I'm assuming they're involved in other activities as well, but what's been some of the feedback that you've had with your children so far?
Well, I have a daughter who plays a lot of golf and a son who plays zero golf. So we find that she makes time for golf every day just about, and if we can't take her to the golf course, she'll load her clubs up on her little bike tow cart and ride her bike to the golf course by herself. So, we do our best to take her to events and tournaments and things like that. But, she has her own motivation and will get herself to the golf course as much as she can. Wow,
I think that's fantastic. She's already, already got her equipment in tow, if you will. That sounds like, Nicole, it might be the making of an LPGA champion in the future here.
Yeah.
She's already. All right. Let me ask you, Nicole, really, and again, I know, as an instructor, to really prioritize when you're out there, what are some of the key things that you try to, and again, I know it's age appropriate and so forth, but let's talk about first with the younger ones and then a little bit with the older ones. How do you prioritize what you do, and how do you decide, okay, this is what we're going to do with this group here, and this is what we're going to do with that group there?
Well, I think first and foremost, the environment needs to be emotionally safe as well as physically safe. You're looking at, do they spray pesticides? Are they in a safe area where they're not going to get hit? Or, we deal with fire ants sometimes. So we're looking at all of those areas to make it a really good environment. From there, it really depends on the group and, the individual. And so, I've had like a 2-year-old could go longer than a half hour, and I had one the other day that didn't make it to 15 minutes, but that was so cool because even just a few minutes of it, the rest of her vacation there with her grandparents or grand aunt, she just wanted to drop the ball in the hole and go to the putting green. So, the introduction is key. And then, in our seasonal programs, I like to sit down before and make like an 8-week program. And I want there, especially for the young kids, to be very holistic. I want there to be golf or near golf skills, music, art, healthy nutrition, sunscreen protection, even like how you shake hands, looking at someone's eye color and a medium squeeze. So there's so many life skills to teach. And as we look through the different age groups, we look to see where are we going to go. Like the academy that Coach Chris and Coach Eric took this season, they wanted to do a lot more on the course and get out there with the kids more and not just beat balls at the range. So you start with introduction, then you get into skill building, and then more of the application of it. And especially as the kids get older, I think it's really cool to involve them in the decision. So you may have an idea like, all right, I want to do some pitching. We're going to work with some speed control drills and getting the ball to stop or check or roll, but then getting them involved in the game. And they kind of take it and they create it, and they may create it in ways that you've not seen or thought of. And they're going to use all the cool new young kid lingo that you get to learn too. So it's really neat.
Right. Well said. I want to ask you, I know you touched on this, Nicole, a little bit in the beginning, but I just want to get into it a little bit deeper, and then I'm going to go back to the parents, and I want them not to answer this specifically, but I'm going to generalize a little bit. You talk about in situations where sometimes the parents might get a little bit too involved, and sometimes overdo it with getting too involved in the programs or getting too involved in how the development, and I'm talking about golf development of the child, and sometimes that can be a hindrance. Whereas there's also situations, as you mentioned, where the parents are a little bit more laid back and sort of let the kids, unfold and develop naturally. What are some of the things that you try to do, and when you're first starting the programs at the beginning of the season, do you sort of sit down or do you talk with the parents and say, look, we certainly want your involvement and things like that, but, because that's not always an easy conversation, I'm sure at times to navigate. So how do you handle situations like that?
Well, like with our PGA Junior League team, we did not have a big parent meeting this year, but most of the kids on the team this year, they've been through the team other than I think 2. So we've gone through meetings in the past on the first day, and we really like working with Positive Coaching Alliance that we learned through the U.S. Kids certification. And we live it and breathe it, and all the programs in there, like having a mistake ritual or the elm tree where we focus more on the mastery versus the scoreboard, honoring the roots of the game, those types of things. And actually, they made it kind of nice for us as coaches to go, when you talk to a group, you're going to say, here's what we offer. Here's our culture, and here's how we do that. And, we even had the kids kind of do a little skit on what's it like for a kid to be the parent, and we kind of reversed the roles, and that was kind of fun to see. So, and even in individual lessons, I'll remind them several times, like, well, here's how we're going to do this. Or even in a 2 to 3-year-old class, I'll talk to the parent and say, here's how we're going to go. So we're kind of pulling them through so they understand the lingo as well. And there will always be a couple of parents, that even though I say I don't mind if a 2 or 3-year-old has a reverse grip or they're holding it with one hand or they're having a split grip, they will still peel the kids' hands off and put them on in what they think is the adult correct way. So I do as much reminding as I can, as appropriately as I can. And we'll also follow up with, weekly reminders on some of the, 8-week programs. In our Edufy, I do a card talk. So for our ages 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and 6 to 9, the parents get a little reminder of what we did each week. So hopefully they have a chance to read it. I know they get inundated with a lot of things, but we try to remind them through that and just gentle reminders to sneak them in there.
Yeah, and it is a balancing act because obviously, especially when you're dealing with the little ones, the parents do want to kind of be involved, and it's good that you have a program set up where they're sort of getting educated along the route as well as their child, and they're getting some good, solid feedback. All right, I want to go back to the parents and sort of keeping on this theme for a little bit, but I'm going to sort of massage, as I said, the question a little bit for you guys. And this time I'm going to start with Andrew, and then I'm going to go to Jay, and then to Andy to sort of round it out. But Andrew, what I want to ask you as a parent, maybe a lot of times you're able to be there for some of the different teaching and so forth, and maybe there's times for whether it be work restrictions or whatever, you're not able to make it. But obviously you get a lot of the feedback. How do you find, from your standpoint, a balancing act that you don't you want to be involved, but you don't want to be over-involved to the point where it's counterproductive to the coaching?
Right. Well, I mean, Kate's been with Nicole for, I guess, about 6 years now, and I trust her wholeheartedly. So I don't have I usually will either drop Kate off or I'll go hit balls myself somewhere else. So I'm not necessarily around during the coaching. But, one of the things that's nice about golf is that, during tournaments that you can caddy for your child and things like that you're out there with them. So you have, life lesson moments rather than, just sitting in a bleachers and watching them, perform their sport. So I think that is pretty unique about golf. And gives you the chance to tell
right,
stories
exactly.
and talk about anything else also. So.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think it's it's good to be involved in that. But as Nicole mentioned, that you have to sort of step back a little bit. Jay, I'm going to massage it just a little bit more. Obviously there's situations where you've played, I'm sure considerably longer than your children have played, so you have a certain ingrained knowledge of how the game is played. But there's obviously going to be situations where maybe your children might come home and say, well, we've been working on this, or we've been working on that, and it may be different than what your understanding is. Do you try to inject your thoughts or differences, if you will, or do you sort of let things be as they are and then maybe have a discussion with Nicole or whoever else is involved at a later point if you have a disagreement?
Yeah. I will tell you, through the years, and my kids have been taking lessons with Nicole and been around Nicole for probably about 5 or 6 years themselves. I will tell you that my involvement and my energy kind of waxes and wanes a little bit because you get this overzealous parent and you're so ready to get them, and I can tell you there was a time when my kid was 6, and I was so excited to get him on the golf course. We started taking lessons, and one day we went and we were hitting balls out of a sand trap. And after about 3 minutes, my kid, instead of hitting balls, decided he wanted to just kind of get in the sand and rake it and play in it. And I said to Nicole, God, this is so frustrating. And Nicole said, Jay, this is not supposed to be frustrating. The exposure, let him rake the trap, let him get in the trap, let him hang out in the trap,
right.
And don't let it frustrate you. Instead of, you're feeling like you have to hit balls, because what that does is that just exposes them to the game, and they look and they're seeing it. And I took that was a valuable lesson to me in the early stages of working with Nicole. Not to be that energetic and overzealous parent. I'll tell you, having lessons with Nicole, sometimes I'll walk over to her and say, he's not doing this right, and she kind of smiles at me and understands that I'm trying to get him to have a better score there. But what we do is I release my kids to Nicole. They have a lesson. I don't go anywhere near them, and then afterwards, either through Coach Now or Edufy or just at the end of the lesson, she'll come over to me and she'll tell me different lessons that she wants me to work on with them until the next lesson. And I feel like that's been very valuable. So I don't actively get involved. I'm not standing over there. I'm not trying to get the approval. I stay way away. And that system's worked really well for me and my kids in working with Nicole.
Again, well said. And Andy, I think as a parent, I think, you all want to, make sure that your child or your children are getting the most out of that experience. But sometimes they come home and I'm sure they all have a lot of fun with Nicole, but sometimes maybe some of the exercises or some of the things that they're working on can be challenging depending on their age. And as we all know that we've been involved with golf for any length of time, it can be downright hard and frustrating and can cause a little bit of anxiety. What do you do, Andy, when your child or children come home from this experience and it's just been a challenging day and they feel a little bit frustrated maybe at times or if at all, and just feel like, this is just not happening the way I would like it to? What do you do to encourage them to get right back in there and keep trying?
Well, a lot of times if it's something that didn't go according to plan, we like to get out on the course a lot, like on Sunday afternoons, and we'll go up to the clubhouse and and we're like, well, let's kind of practice maybe some things that you've learned at on the PGA team, or if that shot didn't go well, maybe let's recreate it and then see if we can kind of compete among ourselves, because we all kind of play golf, but we do it in a fun way.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of just getting out there and then, what didn't go well, and then how can we perform better? And, my son's very competitive. It's kind of funny because my kids play for two different reasons. I mean, Lawson's the competitive one, and then Erica Ann, it's completely a social experience for her.
Right.
It's not so much that did the shot go well, but, Ava wasn't able to make it, or Kate wasn't able to make it. And, that she was disappointed in being able to catch up with them a little bit during golf. So it's interesting that they have different perspectives.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Nicole, and that brings up another great point. We know as professionals we're seeing quite an insurgence of young female golfers. In fact, the biggest population of new golfers coming in each year for the last several years have been young girls, particularly. What's been some of the experience out where you are? I mean, obviously we know it's on a national scale, but at your club or organization that you're working with, what's been some of the experience with new young girls coming into the game? Are you seeing sort of an uptick, if you will, of new interest in young females wanting to play and learn the game?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have a LPGA USGA girls golf program, and our program at the club actually it waxes and wanes. So right now we're kind of in a little off period, so I'm hoping to get that growing again. We have a lot of different things that our membership does, and with all the activities, trying to find the right day and whatnot. So we've had up to like 20, 23 girls on the roster, and then we've had, down to just a couple that can show. So I think finding, the best days and times and actually having like an ambassador, like a parents ambassador who helps you to grow that program is key. In Knoxville, I inherited a program with 25 girls, and we grew it to almost 80 before I left. So it is really fun to see that. And there'll be girls that come in and want to try golf. They might be visiting grandchildren, or they might be new members, or, they might not be a golf member, but they can still come and take lessons as like an athletic member or a house member. So we like to try to see them get involved and whatnot. So we have a big Savannah Girls Golf Day. That's our September event, and it's really fun to usually see anywhere from, 40 to 70 girls on that one day. And they come in from the local area, and a lot of them are Girl Scouts or Girls on the Run. So the LPGA has done a super job getting that program going. It's been nice to see it grow. Sandy LeBeau started it in Phoenix, I think in 2002 or years ago, and so she did a great job with that. But it's been great to see the girls going. And we had a Golf Channel story a couple of years ago, and it was nice to see, the involvement and how they portrayed that. So it's been cool to see. So hopefully we'll get our program up and going again and get the girls involved. So love seeing them out there. In fact, Kate, EA, and Ava are going to play something I call 9 with Nicole. So in the summer I do 9 holes with some girls, and we're going to have a great match next week. So that'll be fun.
Perfect. Well, hopefully you'll get a little splatter of rain beforehand just to soften up the course a little bit, make it more receptive. Otherwise, you'll feel like you're playing in Texas. I want to ask another quick question, all the parents, again, and I'll start from the top like I did earlier with Andy, and then Jay, and then we'll finish up with Andrew. What has been, Andy, for you thus far the biggest challenge with this golf experience with your youngsters playing? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Well, I guess I would have to say it's probably, how involved do they want to be or not involved, and I agree with some of the previous statements that, it just depends on the season. And so you want them to continue to stay engaged. It's such a wonderful lifelong sport that, you kind of have to read your children a little bit and know, when to let them kind of make, call the shots on, I want to do this and this particular time, or maybe I want to step back and just focus on playing with the team instead of doing individual competitions like drive, chip, and putt. So I think it's just a matter of letting them kind of fill out the sport a little bit, decide how much they want to be involved in, or if they just want to be more socially involved, a little bit lighter.
Right. Jay, what about yourself? Pretty much concur with what Andy has said. Any other challenges that you found thus far?
I would definitely say the sometimes it waxes and wanes in the years of how actively involved and how much they want to play. I think that one of the biggest issues for us is when they get really actively involved. It's time. You brought that up earlier in the segment. Sometimes it's just they want to get out, they want to do this, they want to go to this tournament, they want to go play, and there's only so many hours in the week that my wife and I have the availability to take them to different places. So we kind of have to pick and choose and try and temper that a little bit with them. But it's exciting when they have that momentum and they want to play. So you want to kind of push forward with it, but also you just got to try and find a way to get them to where they need to go.
Yeah, and obviously time is a big issue for, I'm sure, a lot of folks, as we mentioned in the beginning. With so many other activities, not just sports activities, but just other life activities, if you will, or unexpected things come up sometimes that can take away from the activities that we want. Andrew, what about yourself? Again, do you sort of pretty much concur with what's been said so far as some of the challenges that you found thus far, or maybe you have some other thoughts?
No, I have to agree with both Andy and Jay on that. I think just prioritizing time and tournaments and practice time and things like that, and with school and other things that we have to do is the biggest challenge for sure.
I want to ask, and again, give each of you. So Andrew, I'm going to go back, reverse the order, and then I'm going to let the three of you go, and then I'm going to finish up the segment with Nicole. But obviously, we've got some parents listening tonight. So Andrew, Jay, and then Andy. I just again, very quick thoughts. If you were wanting to give some advice to parents that maybe don't have their child in a golf program, what advice would you do, or would you give them rather, on how to get involved, or maybe they're kind of sitting on the fence, if you will? What would you say to them?
I think that you just have to let the kids try it, and they have to love it and really want to do it. Having one kid that likes golf or loves golf and one that doesn't is a bit of a challenge for us, and so we've tried to introduce it to him lots of different ways, and he just is not interested, so we drop it. So if they don't have an interest or a love for it, it's not something that you can fight. So you have to introduce it and hope that they take to it and then let it go from there.
Right. Well said. Jay, I'm sure every parent, sort of fantasizes that they've got the next, PGA or LPGA superstar in their midst, and they want to get them out there and see what they can, mix it up with others in their age group. What advice would you give to parents in a case like that, where, we touched about it a little bit earlier about being a little bit too assertive or too aggressive in getting them out there? But what advice would you have for parents that maybe are in a situation where they think they've got the next rising star? What would you say to them?
I would say I think that's probably the hardest part about being a parent, when you feel like you're onto something and your kids are in love and they seem to be progressing. And I would say expose them to the game, and definitely don't put too much pressure on them, because I think the pressure is going to actually drive them away from wanting to play golf versus just trying to make it fun. And I would think that's probably been one of the greatest things that Nicole's kind of taught me through the years is, just try and make it fun for your children. And we go back to that. We were recently in a tournament where we were kind of struggling, and we were in the lead, but we started struggling. And I just looked at him and I said, let's just have fun. Let's just smile and have fun. It doesn't matter, And we started to smile, and it took all the pressure off. And that's kind of what it's all about. So I think expose your child to the game, and then just let it be fun, and don't put too much pressure on them. And I think everything will come to them.
I agree. Well said. And Andy, any final thoughts from your standpoint? You obviously have a young girl, and that involved in the sport. And for those out there that maybe have a young daughter that hasn't been exposed, and we obviously want to expose them to golf, and we know from playing and being involved in it, some of the life lessons that can be learned. If there's some parents out there that maybe particularly have a child in general, but particularly a young girl that has not really been involved in golf, what would you say to them?
Well, exactly what I said previously, that, allow them to embrace it, what they enjoy about the sport. I mean, both of my children were introduced through working with Nicole through camps in the summer at, starting early at the age of 4. But like I said, they took different paths, and my daughter just loves it because of the social aspect, to be able to have conversations and really develop those friendships on the course while enjoying being outdoors. So I think just kind of encourage the things that they love about it.
I couldn't agree more. Well said. Well, Andy and Jay and Andrew, I want to thank you very much for joining Nicole and I on the special Coaches Corner panel. It's been very interesting to get a parent's perspective, on golf, because a lot of times, and one of the reasons I asked specifically the questions I did is because I think sometimes parents don't realize that their involvement is twofold. It can be detrimental if it's too much or too aggressive, and if there's not enough, as Nicole pointed out, if they're looking for approval, sometimes it can have an adverse effect as well. So it's very important the role that parents play with their children, and sometimes you just have to kind of let them go and give them a nudge and encouragement, but then you have to step back as well. But I think you guys have done a fantastic job from what I understand from our discussions tonight, and I hope you continue to enjoy that journey with your children. And who knows where we may end up down the road. We may be watching one of them or more on television battling it out with some of the professionals. So Andy, Jay, and Andrew, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you all. We'll see you this week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We appreciate it.
All right. Pardon me. That was Andy McKeever, Andrew Barber, and Dr. Jay Goldstein joining Nicole and I for a special segment of Coach's Corner. So Nicole, I just want to take a few more minutes and then we'll end this segment, but wanted to give you an opportunity to share again, maybe some upcoming events that are going to be happening and some of the other things that you're working on, and anything that you would like to promote or what have you here on the show.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. So we, of course, I'm trying to think, where do I start? But at the club, we work with our members and their sponsored guests, and always looking to see what's coming up. So we have our summer programming coming up for us, and we do schools, and everybody has a lot of different ways to do their camps, but ours are basically a 4-day camp, Tuesday through Friday morning, and our 2 to 3-year-olds do a half hour the first 3 mornings. Then they come to our banquet on Friday. The 4 to 6s do a 1-hour session. And then the older 7 to 17s do a 2-hour session. And then on Friday afternoon, the olders will play a 9-hole scramble, and the youngers will play a 5-hole scramble. And then we have a celebration banquet. So I find that in a lot of our programming, it's really cool to overlap the timing. It's helped. I've been looking at separating the time so I could teach more groups, but the parents like when I have staff that can be at different groups at the same time, because it helps them to drop off the kids and then pick them up. So that's a big thing for parents, is the timing. So, I like to overlap and do that so we don't have too many sideline siblings that are just waiting and whatnot. So, but we have camps coming up, drive, chip, and putt practice, youth academy, like the advanced camp. We'll have our club championship run by Coach Vinny. For the youth, and then Coach Joey is running our PGA Junior League with the help of Coach Eric. So we're very lucky to have 14 professionals on our staff. We have 6 courses, 4 shops, and it's a large production. So it takes a village and a family, and we love working with the kids. So that's a little bit on our programming. Of course, July 4th is awesome. We close one of our courses, and they shoot fireworks off from the 9th hole, and we have 2,000 to 3,000 people there, golf carts, and we'll have Golfzilla up from Birdie Ball. I love working with Birdie Ball, and they've got a lot of good things in the pipeline, and it's a lot of fun. So we'll have a lot of good events. We'll be hosting the sub-regional for drive, chip, and putt end of July, so we love being able to host that and are honored. So a lot of cool things coming up there, and I get to teach at the U.S. Women's Open next Saturday, so I'm excited for that.
Wow.
Not the players, of course, they're already good, but the kids and families. So I'll be over there with the LPGA clinics, and looking very forward to that. And then I do have a surprise project in the works, Ted. I cannot divulge it yet, but
okay.
It'll be pretty musical. So I will hopefully have something to share with you again down the road, and we'll see where this goes. But it's a fun project designed for younger kids, and even adults will like it. So that's all I can tell you right now. Yeah.
Well, when it gets a little bit closer and you're ready to divulge, you let me know, and I'll have you come back on and you can share it with the audience here. I would love that.
Actually, I can do that and probably have one of the kids or two do it too, which will be good. So that will be really fun. And I forgot to mention, you were asking the parents about how to get started. I think some great resources for anybody listening. Go to the U.S. Kids Golf website, and they have a Find a Teacher page, and there's some wonderful coaches around the country and the world. They are international. That's a really great way to check with them. And then for the ages 2 to 5, Kate Tempesta, of course, you know Kate. She's a rock star and one of the best in the industry, and really going strong now with her Birdie Basics. And she's located out of New York City, but has a lot of coaches that are starting to work around the country with her product and her philosophy. And then Little Golf Train that Dr. Patricia Donnelly is now running has some wonderful information for coaches on the background of how kids are at that age and the theories behind it. So a lot of cool resources there.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Kate. The last time I had her on the show, she talked about, going to Central Park and doing a lot of great activities. And I thought, man, she's got a great job up in New York. She doesn't even have to go to a golf course. She can go to a beautiful park like Central Park and get the kids engaged in different activities and still teach them a little bit about golf at the same time. So, yeah, she's definitely a rock star. Nicole, it obviously takes, I think, a special person to do really what you do. I mean, you're not just a golf professional, but you're really a great role model for so many others in the industry, because you've really, and I know you teach others as well, but you've really, in my mind, are also one of the premium coaches in the country, in working with youngsters like that, because you've taken a very a different approach. I don't think, not everybody can do what you do. There's a lot of great instructors out there. There's a lot of great teachers all over the place, but it takes a special skill set to be able to come up with some of the ideas that you have over the years and to be able to do what you do. So kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Well, it's well earned, and as I was reading out earlier on some of the different accolades that you've accomplished over the years, and I couldn't read them all because there was just too many. We would have wasted up the whole hour segment just reading all those out, so I had to edit it down a little bit. But well deserved and well honored, and you're exactly right. The USGA girls golf and all of these other great programs around the country. And what's really interesting about a lot of these programs is it doesn't always have to be about the competition. It's just about exposing, whether it be young girls or even young boys to different aspects of golf, and not always having to, lurch them into a competitive field, if you will, and sort of let them develop and go in that direction if that's what they choose. And it's very, very critical, and it takes, an expert such as yourself to really be able to identify and as we talked about, sort of ratchet the parents back a little bit sometimes. So they don't get too assertive. But great stuff. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, Nicole, what's the best way to do it?
Great question. Through Facebook Messenger would be great. My business page is Stick to Sports, and I'll do a lot of postings there on some of the activities of pictures and videos. So that's a great way to reach me. And also Twitter is very good. So I'm on Stick to Sports there as well. That's the name of my book that I've written for ages 3 through 8. And so has stickers and points and lots of fun. So those are my handles on the 2 areas there. So.
Is there another book, do you think, coming down the pike at any time soon? I mean, you did a great job the first one. Is there more books to come, do you think?
I left that title open, and Stick to Sports was kind of a way to get maybe into other sports, but I'm not going to go down that route at the moment. I did actually launch flashcards. So I called them Match Play Golf, and I made flashcards out of the pictures from the book. So in a deck, there's 10 different pictures. It could be a flag stick or a child doing an exercise or a ball or an iron, and I made 2 of them. So once they learn the terms, then they put all the cards down upside down and play like the matching game. So that's out there as well, and those are really fun. And then what I'm coming out with, maybe launching again early next year, is in line with this, but it'll kind of tie things in very, very nicely. So not a book at the moment, but I'll certainly let you know if anything comes down the pipeline.
All right, I want a copy if you do. Well, Nicole, as always, thank you very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. And as I mentioned a little while ago, you were my very first official guest here on Golf Talk Live 7 short years ago. I'm still working at it, and I appreciate it very much. And I've enjoyed having you come back each and every year, and I hope you'll continue to do so. We'll literally make a holiday of it. But I want to wish you and Ty, your husband, all the best and much continued success. And I'm going to keep trying to figure a way to get him on this program one way or the other. But so if you're listening, Ty, beware. But I want to thank you very much, and I want you and your family to have a great Memorial weekend. And God bless, my dear. You do a fantastic job, and it's an honor and pleasure to have you be a guest on the show. And thank you for bringing the parents on as well.
My pleasure, Ted. It's very much an honor, and I look so forward to it. So I hope to run into you this year, and thanks for having me on the show. I really love it.
I will. I'm going to make a point of going to the PGA show. I haven't been the last couple of years, so I'm due. So if you're down there, I'll see you down at the PGA show for sure.
Definitely message me, and we'll meet up down there and exchange some ideas. Would love it.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Nicole. Have a great evening.
Cool. Have a good holiday. Thanks, Ted. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was my very special guest on a special Coaches Corner panel, the head professional at the Landings Club in Savannah, Georgia, is where you'll find her. Of course, I'm talking about Nicole Weller, and you can find her on social media as well. So for you parents out there that are maybe interested in getting your children involved, you might want to reach out to Nicole, and even if she's not in your area, she can certainly direct you to some great teachers literally around the country through various networks, and also you can go to U.S. Kids Golf as well, to their website, and find a teacher in your neck of the woods, if you will. But she's definitely a great resource and just does a fantastic job with the programs out in Savannah. All right, before I introduce my special guest this evening, I want to remind everybody, of course, of a special promotion beginning tonight, actually. As I mentioned earlier, Coaches Corner panel is sponsored by golfswing.com, and they've very graciously offered a substantial discount, in fact 50% off their subscription website. They've got a great online video academy from some of the best golf teachers and instructors around that you can find. So if you go to golfswing.com after the show, and at the checkout, if you put in promo code Golf Talk Live, doesn't matter, it could be upper or lowercase, but just put Golf Talk Live, you will get 50% off the subscription price. So make sure you go to golfswing.com and enter promo code Golf Talk Live. And here's just a short audio clip telling you a little bit more about golfswing.com.
Are you finally ready to improve your golf game? Golfswing.com is changing the way golfers learn online. With the largest collection of golf training programs and drills on the planet, Golfswing.com can help you improve every part of your game. Whether you want to gain more distance, hit it closer, or just sink more putts, Golfswing.com's staff of world-class coaches can help you gain the results you need. Watch unlimited videos on any device from anywhere in the world and start playing better, scoring lower, having more fun, and saving money. Get your fix on demand at Golfswing.com.
All right, that was... My apologies, wasn't quite done yet. That was a short promo from Golfswing.com, who is the sponsor of the Coaches Corner panel this season. Once again, they came on board last season and decided to renew again this season. I'm very grateful to have them, and they're a great company. And again, go to Golfswing.com after the show and enter promo code Golf Talk Live, and you'll get a 50% savings on their subscription price. It's worth it. There's literally thousands of great online videos on there from some of the best teachers and instructors around. So again, go to golfswing.com. All right, a little earlier this month, I was scheduled to have this gentleman on my show. He's been on a couple of times before. I am definitely a fan of his. I'm talking, of course, the voice himself, golf announcer Peter Kessler. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then once he is ready on board, then I will bring him on and we'll have a great interview together. Peter Kessler was the voice, as I mentioned, of HBO Sports from 1990 through 1995, narrating Peabody, Ace, and Emmy Award-winning documentaries, including When It Was a Game and When It Was a Game 2. Also, the boxing trilogy In This Corner and The Sweet Science. The premier talent at the Golf Channel from 1995 through 2002. Peter hosted, wrote, and produced 1,300 live one-hour episodes of 4 different shows, including Golf Talk Live, Academy Live, Viewers Forum, and, of course, Masters Highlights. An active fixture in the golf industry, Peter has been featured in multiple golf publications around the world, including cover stories in Golf World and Golf Week. His expertise and historical acumen was the subject of a 10-page profile and interviews in Golf Digest. Additionally, Peter has produced programs for Callaway Golf, Adams Golf, Gary Player Golf, and Bobby Jones Golf. The first voice on the PGA Tour Network, Peter also wrote and hosted a daily show from 2005 through 2015, and his podcast on iTunes was rated the #1 golf podcast for 2014 and 15, and is continually sought for narration work. Peter has provided voiceover talent for American Express, the NBA, the USTA, and the Boys and Girls Club of America. And as I mentioned, his podcast called Reading the Break, it's a free podcast woven from the history of the game, hosted by masterful storyteller and renowned golf historian, Mr. Peter Kessler. So I will just wait for him to come on board, and we will make up for, and I will humbly apologize to Peter on air for my mishap the last time. He did not no-show for the program. It was my mistake, so I'm going to humbly apologize to Peter when he comes on board, and I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. And don't forget to also join me on Tuesday mornings here on the blogtalkradio.com network for the Women of Golf, where, of course, my good friend LPGA professional Cindy Miller and I host and speak with some of the great young ladies on the Symetra Tour and others from the LPGA Tour as well, including teacher professionals and players, and a whole host of other great guests as well. So make sure you tune in to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And at the end of this show, you'll hear some other ways, other avenues that you can check out this show, Golf Talk Live, and also the Women of Golf, as well as coming to the main network. So, as I said, I'm just waiting for Peter to come on board here in just a moment, and we'll begin tonight's discussion. Oh, and one other final note, my apologies, one other final note I wanted to mention as well, to go to, now I lost my train of thought. Go to the blogtalkradio.com website, and again, type in whether it be Golf Talk Live or Women of Golf. And if you want to follow the program, if you click on follow, you will actually get a notification in the inbox of your email to let you know of upcoming shows and who's going to be on it. So if you want to get notified, that's a great way to do it. Just go to blogtalkradio.com and either /Golf Talk Live or /Women of Golf, either one, both shows. In fact, do both of them. And when you get to the main page, you just click follow. There's no cost, obviously they're free. And you'll get notification coming into the inbox of your email address that you provide. And you can get updates on the show as well, and notification of when new coming shows. This show, of course, airs live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And as I mentioned, every Tuesday morning here on the same network is the Women of Golf show from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you tune into both programs. And as I said, make sure you follow both programs, and you will find me on social media. You can either check under my personal name, which is Ted Odorico, and it's Odorico. Or you can also search for either program on Facebook, Women of Golf, or Golf Talk Live. You can go and follow the pages there. I keep updated every week there, so you can also check it out on any of those social media sites. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I update there as well, and also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO, and it's CEO is in capital letters, so you can get updates for the programs as well on those social media platforms. So as I said, just waiting for Peter to come on board here, and I appreciate all of you tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed the first half of the show with my very special guest, Nicole Weller, who was always interesting, always has a lot of great things to talk about, and I appreciate her bringing on some of the parents that she's, some of the children that she's worked with over the last several years, Andy McKeever, Andrew Barber, and of course Dr. Jay Goldstein. Appreciate their thoughts and input into the show as well. Always makes it very interesting to get a parent's perspective. You know, we have so many young kids now getting involved in different golf programs, and you know, as they all very eloquently sort of pointed out, quite often we get the parents get a little bit overzealous and a little bit aggressive, and a lot of times what ultimately ends up happening is the children kind of lose interest, if you will, just because they're not able to sort of keep up. So for you parents out there, you know, if you just sort of tuning in, maybe you missed the first segment, go back after the end of the show. You can listen to the archive and just listen to, there's 3 different parents that were on tonight with Nicole on the first hour of the show, and just listen to some of what they talk about. Maybe you're in a similar situation, or maybe you're thinking about getting your child involved in golf and not sure how to go about it. There was some great ways that Nicole had mentioned as well that you can do that. But also just listen to what some of the parents, you know, talked about, and really how to sort of step back sometimes as well. You know, again, they try to, you know, let the coaches and the teaching professionals that are working with their children just sort of take the lead, you know, in handling the children in different programs, and not trying to get too involved. Certainly they do appreciate involvement, but you know, sometimes, you know, getting too involved up front can be a little bit overwhelming for the children, and it's not always you know, working out, if you will. So, but so just keep that in mind when you're looking for that. And as Nicole had mentioned, if you go to US Kids Golf website, you can find a teaching professional in your area that will help you sort of navigate the waters, if you will, with your children, on how to get them involved. And there's some great programs out there, and you know, sort of have one that fits to your child's needs. And again, it's really their needs, if you will, and not yours. So you want to make sure that you you know, listen to your children and have them sort of decide how much involvement they want to get, and then just sort of help guide them along from that point, and not you know, sort of push the envelope, if you will. I'm just reaching out to Peter here. He may be running a few minutes late, and I will bring him on as soon as he is ready. I will, in the meantime, I will just remind everybody, while I've got a few moments here, to go to golfswing.com at the end of the show, and at the checkout, if you subscribe to their website, again, it's their online video academy. They're offering right now a 50% off discount off the subscription price if you enter the promo code Golf Talk Live, and it's a great deal. They've got some fantastic videos. In fact, I've had some of the professionals have been guests on the show here. One particular, John Decker, who has become good friends over the last couple of years since he's been coming on. He's been a regular on for the last couple of seasons. He's been a guest as well, but on the Coach's Corner panel, he's been a regular contributor, and he's literally put, I think, a few hundred videos up on their platform. So some great videos there, and including his signature series about the short game. So you definitely want to go and check that out. So subscribe today and enter promo code Golf Talk Live and get a 50% savings from the people at golfswing.com. All right, I've just sent Peter a quick little text here, and just to remind him, in case maybe there's been a problem. Hopefully not. And we will hopefully continue to I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I think what we will do is we will knock on Mr. Kessler's door, so to speak, and we will. Oh.
Please leave a message and I'll call you back.
Well, I guess he's not quite ready yet. So I got his voicemail. All right, we will wait for Peter to come on board, and hopefully everything's all right, and we won't have to reschedule. I actually spoke to him. Actually communicated with him a little bit earlier today, so he may be running a few minutes late. So my apologies for that, and I will bring him back here. Or bring him back on, if you will, here shortly. Hopefully he'll be ready to go. Also next week will be a regular Coaches Corner panel followed by another guest, and always look forward to the Coaches Corner panel discussions. If you're a teacher professional here anywhere in the United States, doesn't matter where you are, or even in Canada, and you're interested in being part of the Coaches Corner panel, you can send me an email. My email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. That's ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And you can send me an email there, and I will see if I can squeeze you in before the season has ended. Even though I know we've just started, I'm pretty booked up for most of the discussions, but there may be a few spots open. And if not, I will normally send out the new schedules for the season, usually late October, early November, and you can get in for next season. It fills up pretty quick. Usually within about 2 weeks of sending the schedule out, it fills right up. So make sure that you get in touch with me as soon as possible. If you're also in the golf industry, you don't necessarily have to be a teacher professional, but if you're somebody in the golf professional, or maybe you have an interesting product or service provider in the golf industry and you'd like to come on as a special guest, I am working on June is actually booked now, but I'm working on July and August. So if you're interested in coming on the show, by all means, please reach out again to me through my email. It's ted.golftalklive@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to put you into the mix. And there is my good friend. And let me welcome Mr. Peter Kessler.
How are you, my boy?
Good evening.
Good evening. It's always great to hear your voice. I always look forward to our conversations.
How are you, Peter?
Got good stuff, and so I'm doing fine. Thanks, buddy.
Not a problem. All right. Well, Peter, what I thought we would do tonight is, you've had, as I've mentioned to you before when you've been on the show, and we talked a few weeks back actually after, and I'm going to digress here for a second because I promised, I told everybody I was going to do this, that I was going to apologize because I had you scheduled for May 2nd, and I made the mistake, and I thought it was a no-show, but actually it was me that had made the error. So I want to apologize on air to you that it was my mistake, not yours. So I want to make sure that my audience knows that you were very patiently waiting for my call, and which.
Hang on a second now. I just called you 11 minutes late because I wanted to hit the last few little chip shots into the basket, and then I went, oh, my God, it's time to call. So call it even, and off we go.
That sounds good. All right, Peter, one of the things I wanted to do, and I've been thinking about this for a little while, you've had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing some phenomenal players over the years. And I'm going to name a few of them. And what I'd like for you to do is give your thoughts as far as what you liked about their game and some of the things that you may or may not have liked about their game. And I'm talking about their playing, their style, however you want to phrase it. And I'm going to talk about some of the players that, played maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, and then some of the newer players. And I'd like to get your thoughts on how the game has changed, in your opinion, from that particular era to what it is right now. And obviously I'm going to start with the King, Arnold Palmer. What did you think of his game overall and him as a player?
Well, from 1958 through, say, 1968, Arnold was the straightest and best driver on the whole tour. I mean, anybody will tell you that. Lee will tell you, Jack will tell you, Gary will tell you, Billy would have told you, Kenny would have told you. But Arnold hit, the perfect drive for his time, less irrigation, the fairways would run out a lot, and he hit this low straight bullet. Everybody said he hooked it. He didn't hook it. It barely turned left. It was anything but a hook. And he just hit every freaking fairway, and he hit way more greens than people might imagine. 14, 15 greens. Jack hit 16 greens on a regular basis during his prime. But so Arnold was a really, really good driver of the golf ball. He was a really good long iron player, even though he didn't hit the ball high. I remember I said to him one day, "So what did you do when you had to hit it high?" He said, "You think I did?" He said, "I hit it high." He said, "What do you think? I'm an idiot?" So, there was no shot he couldn't hit. And, even when, he won 63 times on the PGA Tour, won 90 times overall. He's got 7 professional majors and a U.S. amateur, which automatically makes you obviously, on the top 10 list, no matter any way anybody wants to slice or dice it. But, from 58 to 64, Arnold won those 7 majors. It was a very, very brief window. And then his putting started to leave him. Then, of course, Jack Nicklaus had already arrived on the scene and really started to dethrone him at Oakmont in 1962. But, Arnold was reputed to be inside 15 feet in from like 57 or 8 through 64, that he was like the greatest putter from 15 feet. And Tommy Bolt used to tell me stories that Winnie, his wife, and they were young, this is the 1950s, she would sit on the side of the putting green, and Tommy Bolt would hear her say, "Just keep hitting more of that length putt on, because if you're the best at that length putt, then with everything else that you do, you should win a lot of stuff." And, of course, that's exactly what happened. So, underrated player, not the greatest wedge player that ever lived, but, win 63 tournaments if you can't play every shot.
Yeah, exactly. And you're exactly right. And it was a different time then. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want to move on to, obviously, you've already mentioned him, Jack Nicklaus. Obviously, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest player. Some now say, Tiger is in that category. But what are your thoughts about Jack? How did you rate him as a player? Obviously, he won, the most majors at this point, and Tiger is certainly in the hunt for that. But how did you rate him as a player, his game in general? And what did you like or not like about his game?
Well, it was completely ridiculous. I remember in the spring of 1972 when I was 20 and living in San Diego, and they had the Tournament of Champions at La Costa, where I joined and became club champ a few years later. And actually, poor Tommy Jacobs, who lost in the playoff with Gabe Brewer to Jack Nicklaus at the 66 Masters, with the head pro at La Costa, and he had to follow me and this other guy around, and it went 36 holes before I made a putt to win one up. So poor man had to follow us, and here he was playing off for the Masters. It was tragic. But I used to really hang with Jack. In those days, nobody went to tournaments. Literally, nobody went to tournaments. In 1972, Not only did I play golf with Gene Sarazen when he was 70 and I was 20 at La Costa by complete accident, and Reggie Jackson, but that, Jack was right then in the very heart of his prime. From 1970 through 1980, Jack would win 10 of the 44 majors, 10 out of 44 majors from 70 through 80, and then 8 second-place finishes. And I think 38 or 9 of those 44 were top 10s. Not that matters very much. Top ones are good when you have 10 of them in that, that span from 70 through 80. But there wasn't anything Jack couldn't do. So on a Tuesday, I would go up first thing Tuesday morning. I lived about 20 minutes away, and I totally blew off school always anyway. And so I drove up to the Costa, and I knew Jack was going to play early, but nobody was going to ever be there. So I went up, I parked my car. By then I'd already joined, even though I was 20, it was $500 to join and $10 a month dues. And so I went and I found Jack down on the range, and it was like one other person, maybe I was alone. So I walked with Jack to the first tee, and I said to Angelo, it was Kenny, I said, "Can I walk with you guys?" He said, "Sure." He said, "Do you know anything?" I said, "I know everything." He said, "Okay, great." So We walk right down the first hole. Jack hits. I stand right there on the tee. Jack hits a practice shot and a drive right in the middle of the fairway at La Costa. We walk down the hole, and I start talking to him, and like in 3 minutes, he knew that like here's somebody different, and he knew I knew a lot like instantly, and I had go the whole 18 with him. I mean, he would let me hit a couple of chips, and I would say to him, I noticed that you work on your chipping, and everybody says, you're not a good chipper and you're the best player in the world. And he said that's because I never have to chip. He said, I expect to hit 16 greens around for sure, no matter what the tournament is. And he said, and on the 2 greens that I miss, he said, I know I can chip it to 10 feet. And if I hit to 10 feet, obviously there's no way I'm ever going to miss one of those. He said, so I never really even thought about that. But there wasn't anything he couldn't do. One day we're on the practice tee. There's like 4 other guys sitting with me right behind him on the little hill, 5-6 feet away. In those days, you had catcher's mitts for the caddies, and they'd had a bag, and the bag would empty at the tee, and they'd take the bag out, and they'd catch the ball after a 1 hop, and then when the player would wave, that'd mean go back 10 yards. So Jack hits a 7-iron 150. Guy next to me says, I can hit my 7-iron 150. Jack hears him. He waves Angelo back, goes to 160, hits a 7-iron, goes to 170, goes to 180, goes to 190, goes to 200 with a 7-iron, and then turns around and says to the guy right next to me, because Jack already knew me at that point. We weren't friends or anything, but I'd already spent time with him, and so he knew I knew what was happening. And he looked at the guy and he said, I can hit my 7-iron as far as I'd like to. He said, but I choose to hit it 150 yards. And there wasn't anything that he couldn't do. I mean, I saw him hit a million shots where he had to play bunker shots or trouble shots. It was, you don't win 20 majors if you can't play everything. So, his game was absolutely flawless. The business about the wedge stuff is only accurate in the sense that on a relative basis for the best player who ever lived, that may have been the part of his game with which he was able to at least take advantage of birdie opportunities should he have actually been seeking them. So the whole thing with the short game and Jack is nonsense. And he hit this ball. His ball fell to the right, 15 feet, I'd say. And his ball didn't go as high as you might think. It was not a line drive, but it wasn't like way up in the air. His 1-iron went higher than his driver. It was kind of 3/4 height, and it would kind of bore through, whatever the air thing was, and then it would just gently fall to the right, not curve, it would fall to the right.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I saw him years ago at the Canadian Open, hitting that same bunker shot that Tiger hit. I forget what year that was, but Jack actually, Tiger, I believe, hit the 6-iron from that bunker, from that fairway bunker, and Jack actually hit a 4-iron from that very same bunker several years earlier. But he was just a phenomenal player. I enjoyed watching him, and it just was amazing what he did. I want to skip across the pond, if you will.
Give me one last thought on Jack, which is this, just to show you how arrogant in a really good way he secretly was, because they all are. The really great ones, they don't. A lot of times they won't tell you. People like me, I say I'm the greatest all the time, like Muhammad Ali, like to say that for fun too. But Jack only does it sometimes. So one year in the Ryder Cup, he and Weiskopf are playing best ball, and they go to the first hole. Jack's got about 15 feet up the slope for birdie 3. Weiskopf is 10 feet from the hole on Jack's line, so he's going to get a great look at it. So Tom says to him, do you want me to move my marker? And Jack said, just pick it up. And Tom said, what do you mean? Jack said, just pick up your marker. Tom said, what do you mean? Jack said, rack your cue. There's no possible way that I could miss this putt. Weiskopf said, so I picked up my marker, and Jack knocked it in, and he looked at me like, what, are you kidding? So there you go. Teddy?
Wow. Amazing. I want to go across the pond, if you will, and talk about somebody unfortunately is no longer with us, but I want to get your thoughts on his game and what, again, you liked and disliked about his game. And I'm talking about, of course, Seve Ballesteros.
Wow, Seve, is a good friend of mine, and we hit a lot of pitch shots together. We hit a lot of pitch shots in Spain when I went to visit him in 2005 to do a thing for Golf Magazine, which went particularly well. And we spent a lot of time together, and he really helped me with my short game. He was the only one who was actually like hands-on, where he would say, no, don't. He said, I want the shaft to be really vertical. He said, you can lean it back, but you can't lean it forward. You know, he had very specific things that I still think about whenever I practice short shots, and really that's all I ever practice anyway. But Sebi, when he was young, and people definitely don't know this because it happened for such a brief time, and we didn't get to really see much of it, but he was ridiculously long. He was so long that when he came over in 1980 to play in the Tournament of Champions at La Casa, because by then he had won the Open the year before by looking at St. Anne's, and he'd already won on the tour already at that point. So he comes over in 80 to play. Now, Weiskopf was one of the really longest hitters for sure. The 18th hole at La Casa was a joke from the back tees, and I shot some really good numbers in the mid-60s there. And let me tell you, it's a serious golf course in the tips, and there's always wind. It's really close to the ocean. And the last hole plays dead uphill into the wind. It's par 4. He's got to hit a really stout drive. You get a really good second shot. There's nothing gimmicky though about the green area or some dopey thing. It's just a good tough Dick Wilson hole. So Weiskopf comes through and hits driver 3-iron. So I know. So I'm walking with Sebi. So I wait for Sebi, and his ball comes down, and it's past Weiskopf's ball, and I noticed that his caddy, when he gets up, is like fiddling with the 3-wood head cover. And I asked him, there's nobody there, remember? I said, I had a chance to say to him, I said, was that 3-wood on the tee? Yes. So Sebi hits 3-wood 8-iron, where Weiskopf hit driver 3-iron. Same hole, 10 minutes later, same conditions. His swing speed, I mean, you think about like the famous shots that there's maybe the second shot into 13 in 1986 where he made the eagle on the last day and celebrated too early. But, Phil Mickelson watched that swing. It was a 6-iron. He went a fantastica. Phil Mickelson maybe watched that 2,000 or 3,000 times. Seriously, literally watched it 2,000 or 3,000 times. Played it over and over and over. It's one of the greatest swings ever. And the thing about it that, of course, besides the 50 obvious things, how beautiful it is, the tempo and the timing and the rhythm and the sequence, all of that stuff, but the acceleration past the ball, up, out, away, around, into the finish was ridiculous. Like all really, really long hitters of the ball. Real speed was, it was just gathering speed through the hit, and it just picks up speed, and it's boom, boom, around, up, over. So he was ridiculous. And then short game was crazy. I was late with you, and I apologize again because I was in the backyard hitting chips. Where Sebi hit chips in my yard. He came here with his family at Christmas time in 2005 when they had the father-son in Orlando, and I'm in Orlando. And I said, when you come to Orlando, come over. And I knew he wouldn't call, and he called. He said, I'm coming over. Okay, great. So came over, brought the kids. Girls made dinner. Sebi and I go into the yard. I got a good little mat, really teeny little matte green, but it's totally functional. Looks fine. And it's 38 yards is the ideal shot to hit. And Sebi and I go down there, and I got a bunch of balls, a couple of wedges already there. And then he takes one of the wedges, and it's the first shot, and just kind of dead straight. And it rolls kind of like right next to the cup. And then he made one that went way from right to left, then way from left to right. Then he hit one that was like 2 feet off the ground the whole way in it. And this little green is hard too. And it hit me just like checked. I had never checked the ball in the time I'd ever had that green, not even on a lucky shot. It was ridiculous. And then he'd hit one that came down vertically like a grapefruit. He had no idea. After 3 balls, I wasn't even on the planet. He had no idea I was there. So he hits maybe 15 shots, 18 shots. I'm like 3 feet away just sitting there watching. And then finally he hits one that finished 6 feet away, and he's all upset. He looks at the wedge, and he looks at the ground, and he looks at me. It's my fault that ball didn't go right. Because all the other ones literally were within 2 or 3 feet. I saw Gary Player do that with a 5-iron. We were doing a shoot. It's just a few years ago, and he had 26 5-irons we picked a fairway bunker shot over water into the sun, wind right to left, to a green that was on a par 3 hole that was meant to take really a sandwich, like teeny, teeny, tiny. So players hitting these 175-yard shots, right to left wind, into the sun, fairway bunker, no lip, over water. And of the 26 shots that he hit, 23 finished on the green. A 26 is a teeny little thing with a 5-iron into the sun.
Wow.
First thing in the morning. And the ones that were on the green, the 23, the 26, 19 were within 15 feet. So, these guys are so, and this he was in his 70s. These guys are so much better than people know. I mean, the things that Seve could do with a golf ball, things he could do on the putting green, and and he would just say little things to me like, said, you really want to feel the club stay in the grass like a couple of inches after you make the pitch or the chip, because he said you want it to feel a little bit like you're in the bunker. Let the club stay down. Don't swing up. Keep the thing down. Keep it down. Just little stuff. And he would talk about where the handle is, and he would talk about, he said, like if it's a 3/4 shot, it was really important to Seve, if it was a 3/4 shot, that you swing the 3/4. You don't ease into the 3/4 position like 99% of us do, and then you hit a hook or whatever. You swing the 3/4. He really hated it when you didn't finish your pitching swing. He really hated it. Like if I didn't get all up the way, even on a 38-yarder, because he made me take it back to like what felt like 9 or 10 o'clock. But he really wanted me to finish all the way up and around and feel some stretch. And that's not easy to do on a 38-yard shot if you're not Seve Ballesteros. And so, I didn't want to say to him, dude, I'm a 6. I didn't want to say, dude, I'm a 6, all right? So let's get with the program here. But, he had the most wonderful hands and the most gentle, soft manner. And he was so comfortable here. He came inside and he said, where's your bedroom? I said, it's over here. He said, I'll take a nap for a few minutes. I said, okay. And he laid down on the bed, and I got an Afghan that my grandmother made probably in 1940-something, and laid it on top of him. He went to sleep for 20 minutes. So we had a lovely relationship, and we spoke before he passed and reminded me of my short game keys, and I got all upset. And he was a lovely, lovely man. And before his swing betrayed him and he had back issues, for that period from 79 really through 90, that was, really 76 through 90 with Seve. And then in 95, he won his 50th and last event on the European Tour, which is, of course, the record.
Let me ask you one last thing about Seve before we move on. It just was thinking about this. Would you say Seve was instrumental in shifting the European, what I hate to use the word surge, and the Ryder Cup? Do you think he was instrumental in changing the tides? I mean, for so many years, the U.S. really dominated the Ryder Cup, and then he sort of came on the scene. Do you think he was instrumental in changing that momentum?
Yeah, sort of like Henry Ford with the automobile. I mean, way one happened without the other. I mean, really the catalyst was, of course, Jack Nicklaus. Jack was talking, Europeans never won the Ryder Cup. I mean, Great Britain and Ireland never won the Ryder Cup. And so, Jack Nicklaus said in the late 70s, oh, for God's sake, and it'll include Europe on your team. So the next year they included it. Seve played the first time. It was a good match, but the U.S. won. Seve didn't get to play the next time, all kinds of stupid political reasons. But then everything changed in 83 because Tony Jacklin then became the captain for 83, 85, 87, 89. And so in 83, I think they played to a tie, or no, the U.S. still won in 83, and then the next couple of times were great for Europe, and the tide started to even out. It didn't turn at that point. It became competitive in the 80s, is what happened. And,
right.
And Seve so Jacklin was the catalyst, because what Jacklin did was he knew how to handle Seve. Seve temperamental, needs to be handled a certain way. I'm temperamental. There's probably a better way to handle me than not a better way to handle me. So Jacklin definitely knew how to massage Seve and tell him how important he was and how great he was. You'd be surprised how many people who are great at what they do need other people to tell them they're great. I always think I'm great anyway, but Seve,
right.
and a lot of people, they needed the input. Arnold needed it. Nicklaus didn't need it. But, Arnold, it was really important to Arnold to have people tell him how great he was. It was really a fix for him. Where for Jack, it was more, okay, I need to get into the mood where you're going to just go ahead and accept this and just hang in there. And that, but Jack didn't need it at all. But, Arnold was insatiable in that way. Who are we talking about? The Seve still?
Yeah.
Who did you just ask
yes.
about?
Seve. Yeah,
what was the last question? What was your
do you
last
think
question,
he was?
Ted? Sorry, I lost you for a second.
No, that's okay. Do you think that Seve was instrumental in helping to change the tide
Oh, yes, the
with
Ryder Cup.
Ryder
Sorry.
Cup?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because once Jacqueline came in to head up the team, what happened in '83 was Jacqueline got him good bags, good clothes, proper airplane. It was the first year that there were team meeting rooms for the European side. Actually, the Americans hadn't thought of it either. They sit around some guy's bedroom and stuff, and guys in those days smoking cigarettes and stuff in your bedroom, man, just awful. So Jacqueline gets them proper everything. So, first of all, they felt equal in terms of the way they looked, and it's important, your presentation. You're going to go on camera looking good, or you're going to go on camera looking like a schlub. So, you got them really good clothes. And Seve, at that point, is for sure one of the three best players in the world in '83. And, he had won a major in '79 and '80 and '83 and '84. And so, at that point, and he was super duper popular too, like internationally. So, there's like super matinee idol. And so Seve comes in his prime, and it turns out to be that he's this insanely emotional team player, like totally out of control. An amazing, Spanish stereotypical temperamental explosion, just fantastic. And he fired people up, and he tried to tell his own teammates how to hit a 5-iron, and and they all knew to say to him either, Seve, I know how to do this, or, oh, that's such a great idea. But Seve got everybody fired up. He got them fired up in the team room. And then, of course, his record with Jose Maria Olazabal as playing partner is something like 11-2-1 or something. And I'm really close to that off the top of my head. And so, here they are, he and Jose Maria, a little later on, are winning like every match. And, and nobody can beat him. I'm pretty sure it was 11-2. It's just insane. And so, they had this Spanish Armada thing going on, and, they both come from the same place and the same background. And so that was humongous. And then you had the class of '57. I mean, it was insane. All these guys who were born in 1957, you had like Faldo and Longer and Sandy Lyle and Ian Woosnam. All those guys were born in the same year. Greg Norman just a couple of years ago, but yet on the European side, you had this whole big gang, Ian Woosnam. So there's 5 right there born in the same year. So it was an incredible classic offers for Europe. And so here they are all in their mid-20s now, in the mid-80s. So it's perfecto mundo because they're now seasoned professionals and they're not kids anymore. So the timing was perfect. It was perfect for Seve. It was perfect for the guys who were born in '57 because now they're in their mid to late 20s. It was perfect for Jacqueline because he lost his game after he lost his confidence, after Trevino chipped in '72 at Muirfield on the 71st hole when it looked like he wasn't taking his time, but he was. He put himself in position. He and I talked about that. And, and then, of course, Jacqueline was right in front of the green and basically took 4 from 20 yards to lose the thing. Then, Trevino all of a sudden has got the lead, runs to the next tee, and hits a driver before even Jacqueline even got there. But Jacqueline makes another bogey. Trevino makes a par. And so Jacqueline was never the same. He's looking for something to do. And so it was perfect because he turned out to be the perfect manager, and Seve turned out to be the perfect team guy that you get. So it was a perfect marriage, and they really liked each other, and frickin' Tony knew how to push every one of the appropriate buttons for Seve, and he never got one wrong. But, yep, Seve's play, Seve's charisma, Seve's fire, Seve's enthusiasm, that certainly was the super-duper playing catalyst for the European side after Tony Jacqueline set it up to make it happen.
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of those earlier Ryder Cups like that, and I remember, as you said, you would see, Seve would, he'd be, in that golf cart, or he would be, on the outside the green somewhere, cheering everybody on and just really getting everybody pumped up in that, especially in the closing holes. And that's why I asked you that question. I want to move on to a few, really only 2 of the modern players. Really quick, and I want to start with Tiger first, just because I know it's going to be a little bit longer with him. But I know you've talked about Tiger before. When you were still back at the Golf Channel years back, he used to frequent there and come and visit and kind of hang around you, as you said. But tell me what you think overall about his game, what you really like about his game, and where he is right now. He just, of course, came off the win at the Masters a few weeks back. Didn't make it into the cut, of course, for the PGA championship, but the year's still young yet. What do you see overall in his game that you really, really like? And do you think the comparison with Jack is accurate as the best player in the world?
Yeah, I mean, everybody says to me, so, how would you arrange a match for Jack and Tiger? What ages would they be and what year would it be and boop-a-dop-a-doop? And to me, it's not confusing. I would make them both 24, and I would make the equipment 2000 because remember when Jack was 58 in 98, he finished tied for sixth in the Masters, so he was still relevant. So now we're going to make him 24 instead of 60, and we're going to make it the year 2000. So he's obviously going to handle that equipment, and then Tiger would already be playing that equipment, and so would have Jack basically. But now we're just going to make him 24. So then you have a good match. But the thing is, Tiger hit it farther than Jack did. He hit it much higher up the tee. The long irons were the same in trajectory, but I saw both of them in their prime in a lot of really cool places. And, in Tiger's case, I saw 8 or 10 of the majors, like where I was under the ropes and stuff that he won. I mean, where I saw everything from like 2 feet away and, had the best seat in the house. And with Jack, when I was a kid, even in the mid-'60s, I saw Jack win when he was at 24 or 5. Saw Arnold win in 1964 somewhere in the New Jersey metro area when I was 12. My mom would drop me off and come pick me up. Saw Tony Lima win, obviously, before he passed a couple of years later. So I saw everybody, and I was, already into it at that point. And when, of course, I mentioned Jack in 72 to you earlier, Lacoste in San Diego, Tournament Champions. And so I got to see Jack in his absolute prime. Just standing with him, walking down the fairway, playing a practice round. I mean, it was like being, you might as well have been the British Open, and you're his caddy. Just the three of us walking down the fairway. Nobody there on a Tuesday. Nobody. I mean, literally nobody. Well, he might not even have the ropes up yet. So, so I saw Jack. So Tiger hit more different shots than Jack did. I would say Jack had a basic stock shot that fell to the right softly on everything that he hit. And, and that was Arnold said, the best hitter of second shots in the par 4s or 5s at the U.S. Open in the history of the game was Jack Nicklaus. He said the thing would come in so high, Peter. He said it would come down so soft. He said, remember Walter Hagen said Jones's irons fell like great boots. He said it's the same thing with Nicklaus. He said they would come down and then they would just kind of roll out a few feet. And he said the other thing was with his wedge, it would come down and just roll out a few feet. He said Jack never had spin stuff ever. He said even when other guys were starting to spin the ball back, Jack's ball hit and just moved a few feet. He said so. He said he could land it in the tiniest spots, knowing he could drop it in vertically. Now, Tiger was capable of doing the same thing, but with Tiger, he had 9 choices. So my favorite thing was to be at a major championship, and just imagine you're looking at him 10 feet. You're at the back of the tee with unobstructed view right on his ball target line, nobody between you and him. Maybe you're 12 or 14 feet away, kneeling in the back. And my favorite thing was to do that on par 3s because on driver holes, you can't see the ball land, which is why when people say, if they roll the ball back, what about dig the long ball? But the truth is, if I stand on the tee and hit it 280, then I hit it 320, you can't tell me which one went 280 in the air and which one went 320. You can't tell that. So no spectator at a golf tournament has ever seen a ball go up in the air and travel for 330 yards and come down. So I don't know what there is to dig because either you're at the beginning and see the swing and you don't see the ball, or you're standing in a place where the ball is sitting on the earth. And my grandmother could have hit it to there. So, there's that whole long ball thing is a complete nonsense. But so I'd stand on the tee and I'd sit on the tee behind Tiger, and I would do just what Tiger did. As he was doing it, I'd go, okay, how do we stand? Where's this pin? What's the best shot? What's the smart shot? Do I need to do anything to take trouble into play? Okay, and then I would pick one of the 9 shots because he could hit. I've watched it a million times on range. He would actually hit all 9 shots. He'd hit a straight ball, low, medium, high. And then he'd cut one, medium, cut one, low, cut one high, and then he would hit draw. I mean, 9 shots at 3 different heights. So, and I knew that he could call on them. It's like Paul McCartney can call on any of the notes on his bass guitar. It's not like problematic or anything here. So, it was just choose which one you're going to do. And, does that have a swing thought? Does that have a feel thought? Whatever it is. And I would say I was right maybe 70% of the time. When I was wrong, he would play in a more aggressive shot. Like sometimes I couldn't even believe the choices. I remember one year at Medina when 13 and 17, I think it's 06, 07, somewhere in there at the PGA, and he's playing with Riley, I think of his name, and so it's 240 yards, par 3, both downhill, 13 and 17. And I'm standing on the tee, and I'm going, you got to play this, kind of middle of the green, and the pin's like really tucked on the left side. You don't want to miss long and left, and it's 240. So he hits 3-iron. It went so high. The trajectory was in such a crazy place in the sky, but you could still see. That was the great thing about par 3s is you could see the whole flight of a par 3 ball where you couldn't see it on a drive. You can see a little over 200 yards. You can't see close to 300. So. And he would hit it like 7 feet under the hole, and then I'd run down the hill. I'd go sit right next to where the putt's going to come in the hole as close as I could get. And he would have like the 7-footer for a 2 up the slope on a 240-yard hole. But I mean 7 feet, not 11, 7. And it'd be an inside right putt. And he would hit the bejesus out of it. I couldn't believe how hard it came off the putt face. On these freezing, fast cement greens, just, there was like no way is this missing on line, and no way is speed going to – I mean, it would start like, a half-inch right of center and just, move a half-inch. I mean, and moving, it was insane. And then he went to 17, and the print was front right. I remember it like it was yesterday. Hit it like 7 feet again. I run down the hill. I get in the position. And apparently the putt looked like it went one way, but all the fans knew it went the other way because they'd been there all day. So Tiger got down the green. They said, Tiger, it actually goes right to left. It doesn't go left to right. It doesn't go left to right. And he believed them, and he made the putt for 2. And so, I got to see so many shots. So there wasn't anything he couldn't do. I remember one day I actually ran into him accidentally. We was filming a commercial at a golf course. It was just a complete accident. And they were in between takes, and so I went up, and Tiger's chipping, and so we have a chipping contest. And he would pick like the hardest possible chip that you could have if it's chipping green. And
of
so
course.
I said, give me a 3-foot, give me a 3-foot advantage at the end of my chip, and I'll play you. And so we did, and he still beat me because he would hole like 2 or 3 out of 10, or if they weren't holed, they were like they looked like they had to go. I mean, just what, he didn't chip it like close to the hole. I mean, everything just started going in. Always. He it's funny, I had a quick Tiger story in 2008. It's the year he won at the U.S. Open at Torrey. In January of that year, I was in Orlando and went to our country club where Tiger still lived. And it was the coldest day in the history of Orlando. And for some reason, my son and I were invited out to play. So we went anyway, and everybody's bundled up with like snowing face mask stuff and everything. So there's 3 people on the putting green. Me and my son Christopher, and I don't know who the other person is. And after 20 minutes, I realized it's freaking Tiger. And he didn't recognize me because I'm all bundled up. So we start to talk, and I said to him, so what do you think of his stroke? And he said, I don't mind the finger down the shaft. He said, Sebi did that. And he said, that worked out. He said, but if he started to have distance control issues, then I'd be looking to soften that up if there's any firmness there. And I said, and he said to me, I think the putter's too long now. He said, look where he's gripping it. He said, he's gripping it kind of like a third. He said, you got to get that cut off 2 inches, all right? And I said, sure. So 6 months goes by. So I got to Torrey Pines. The end of the 3rd round, Tiger makes the eagle putt on 18 after the eagle on 13, and the whole thing was out of control. So I get in a position where if I can catch his eye, I'll catch it. And if he wants to say hello, fine, but I don't ever bother him. But I got into the perfect spot because I had the media stuff on. And I get behind the green, and he looks down, and then somehow he must have laid eyes on the top of his head because he's looking down, and then he got to me, and he just stopped, and he goes, what's going on? And I said, what's that noise? I said, what's that noise coming from your body? And he said, it's bone on bone. I said, that's got to be good. He said, what happened with your son's putter? And I said, what do you mean? He said, remember I told you to cut the shaft down? He said, the greatest player in the world told you to cut your son's shaft down. You didn't cut the shaft down? I said, no, I didn't cut the shaft down. So he laughs and he walks 10 feet away and he goes, cut the effing shaft down. And 30 people looked at me like, who's this freaking guy Tiger's talking to? Because he's the greatest player in the world tells you to cut the shaft. You don't even do it. What a moron.
Well, he's always had a really good sense of humor. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but I've watched him and his mannerisms, and there was always a calmness. And this is what I noticed about him and Jack Nicklaus that really differed from a lot of the other players. They always appeared very relaxed, very calm. There were times when Tiger would be waiting on the green for one of the other players to putt out, and he'd be, leaning on the putter shaft. And, it was almost like he was in a different place. He was just so calm and just so relaxed. And then he'd get up and take care of business. I'm curious what you see in him compared to, let's forget about the past. Let's forget about Nicklaus and Palmer and those guys. When you look at today's game and you think of how Tiger played the game and how everybody else in the field now plays the game, how do you see, or what difference do you see in the way it's played now and the way Tiger played in the 2000s when he was really, hitting it good?
Well, he did this before the equipment got completely out of control. The thing you have to really bear in mind with recent history is this. In 1993, from then through 2003, the average driving distance on the tour increased just under 28 yards, which was 10%. That's 93 to 03. From 03 through now, it's been another 25 yards because of how much farther the ball goes since 03. So you really had a 50-yard pickup since 1993. That's why Phil is 50 yards longer at almost 50 than he was at almost 30. I mean, literally, he's 50 yards longer than he was 20 years ago. So, it's
right.
Not the five guys with the fitness and diet plan that Phil's doing. So, so I would say that the answer is that if Tiger was 10 years younger and he had the swing and game he has now, but he had the body of a better Tiger, then he would win as much as he ever did. I think the move he's making right now is super duper good. I mean, now there's something else going on. I mean, think about the end of the Masters for a second. From the time he pushed the drive on 11 and ended up on the cart path, okay, on 11, Molinari still got the lead. Now, Molinari, 1 minute before, actually hit a very bad shot that he super got away with, and that was the second shot to 11. If the ground had been firm as normal, that ball would have been in the water way sooner than it got to the green. But he didn't, and he hit it well enough so it didn't go in the water. There's no ifs, but everybody knew it wasn't well struck, okay? But it ended up on the green, so that happens. So at that point, Tiger had a really interesting shot he had into 11 from that cart path and gravel on the right. And he drew one in there and got it inside Molinari. From that shot forward, Tiger was ironclad. And, of course, we know everything else that happened from that point forward with everybody else. But Tiger, from the second shot on 11, till it didn't matter, and he made himself a nice sloppy easy bogey on 18 to win by one, he was absolutely ironclad. I mean, the play to show the shot to 12, the two shots to 13, the two shots to 15, the shot to 16. Everything was perfecto mundo. So, he did. It was very Tiger-like, and so we know as the Masters winner that it's obvious he can obviously compete with this crowd because he not only competed but he beat the boys, and I think the intimidation factor was in play for sure. Brooks Koepka had some pretty makeable stuff on the last few holes. This can certainly happen and didn't make those, and not just the way, you never know what's going to happen in golf. But so obviously, when Tiger is feeling Tiger-esque, when they put all of him together, whatever they have to go through, it has to be an amazing process, because if he's not going to play a tune-up tournament or two, he doesn't. Not that he needs them, but I think he can't play them. I think it's like putting Humpty Dumpty together. It's like, for every show, they've got to stitch him back together. That the process to get him ready for an event, to me, looks like an enormity based on how he looks to me. He looks older. He looks tired. He bends over and reaches into the hole like a man 20 years older than he is. He looks to me like he has back issues when he bends over. Not pain, but just some flexibility issues, which obviously he's going to have at his age, compounded by the multiple surgeries and stuff. So, his body is an old 43, but then you have to say, well, maybe it's not, because somehow he got it ready for the Masters and he won the Masters. So somehow he still knows how to put it together, and there are places that he can still win. And, and of course, the reason I think more than any other that he couldn't be competitive at the PGA was because that was too much course for him, because it was so long, except for two or three people, that the two guys who ended up finishing 1-2, which are the same two guys who finished 1-2 at Shinnecock, a very similar course, did so, Dustin and Brooks, because they hit 7-iron or less, averaging around 8-iron into all the par 4 holes, and in some cases even a par 5 hole. So they were hitting scoring clubs. And I remember some occasions last week when Tiger was playing with Brooks, and Tiger looked to me like he'd have a 4 or 5 iron, and Brooks got 8 or 9 iron from the middle of the fairway. Tiger's the best iron player I've ever seen, for sure, and he's definitely been the best iron player the last 25 years, for sure. And he was the best iron player in the world the last 8 holes of the Masters, and must have been a whole bunch before that too, because he was, in good shape at that point. So, Tiger is still capable of putting it together. Now, Pebble. Now, I was there in 2000, man. I was with him on the Wednesday night before he teed off on Thursday. It was me, Butch, Stevie Williams, and Sandy Tatum, who passed away. He was one of the great figures in the history of the game, former president of the USGA, an innovator, brilliant man, a super-duper player. And it was just like the 5 of us. It was like 6 o'clock, and the fans had already left the grounds and everything. So we go to the back 9, and Tiger makes 2 birdies, and then on 15 he hits 8-iron and holds it out for 2, and then on 18 he had about a pitch from like 110. He held that out for 3 to shoot 30, and I said, so what do you think? And he said, we're pretty sure that's the best tune-up I've ever had. So then the tournament goes on. Now we're at Saturday night. He's got the 10-shot lead, and I'm on the putting green with him. And he says to Butch, I don't like the way I'm putting. And what Butch would normally say is, just go over to the other side of the green by yourself and putt for 5 minutes. You'll figure it out. But you never said anything about it. So you just go over there and go ahead and just work on that. It was the swing, it was different. But putting, you're talking about Michelangelo. Go paint a little bit over there. You'll find the right color.
Right.
So Saturday night. So now Saturday night, Tiger's got a 10-shot lead. I'm telling him I could win with his lead if they would give me my 10 shots on top of the 10-shot lead, that I could hang on to the trophy for him. So he says to Butch, I don't like the way I'm putting. And so Butch said, he said, really, he said, Peter knows more about putting than anybody I've ever met, actually. He said, Peter, what do you think? And I said, seriously? I said, I don't think it's fixable. Not by tomorrow morning. I said, he's just going to have to scuff it around on the greens. I said, because definitely we're going to take me. I mean, it's 7 o'clock already. It's going to get dark in 2 hours. We don't have time to get him together. So we would laugh, and Tiger would, push me, and then he'd go putt. He'd come back and say, I'm putting like Kessler. And I said, yeah. I said, that means you're going to probably have 21 or 2 putts tomorrow, you moron. So, he, with people that he felt comfortable with, and he trusted me, and I gave him reason to trust me, and I never let him down. I'd ever. So he knows that. He knows that. Even though I haven't seen him for a while, he He hasn't forgotten our deal. I haven't forgotten our deal. So, yeah. So I think there's going to be a few times this year where he's going to be able to be competitive. Now, this business of guessing where and all that sort of stuff, but Pebble is a good place because it's not very long. It's nothing. It's not going to be anything like the Black Bethpage or anything like Shinnecock. And a lot of the field won't have to hit driver in a lot of places. There's some places you can go ahead and beat your driver, but you don't have to hit driver there. I mean, at first hole you can hit a 3-wood and an 8-iron, and you can hit 3-wood, 5-iron and number 2. I mean, it's a really manageable course in most of the field. 9 plays long, 10 plays long, 8 you got to hit 2 good shots. I mean, we know the course and stuff, but it's not a long golf course. And so, people go, okay, that lets Brooks out. You go, well, actually, and that lets him in because now he can hit a lot of 3-woods. He can hit hybrids, whether people hit their driver. So he's getting his hybrid 3-wood straighter than your driver, and he's going to probably hit it just as long. So there's every reason to think that he would be competitive because he gets hit scoring clone. It just doesn't. It's all out of whack. The equipment is just unregulated at the pro level. If a course like the Black, 7,600 yards, and people who haven't played the Black, you can't imagine the elevation changes. It's out of control, and it's so super duper hard. When the winner averages 8-iron over 4 days into par 4s, I say the game wasn't tested, but yet there's a whole big bunch of the field that averaged 4 and 5 irons. And there were a lot of guys who hit 9 hybrids out of the 18 holes in the 2 days that they got to play before they missed the cut. So Brooks is hitting 8-iron on average and never longer than a 7-iron until Sunday into a par 4 or a par 3. And the rest of the field is 4 or 5 clubs. So the disparity is much wider than the longest hitter used to be to like the field. Like, even in, Jack's day, or I'll give you an example with Arnold. 1969, the U.S. Open at Champions in Houston. Arnold's paired for the first 2 rounds with Dean Beeman, the shortest hitter on tour. Arnold's was still one of the longest hitters in 1969. So Arnold averages in the first round at the U.S. Open in 69 at Champion, averages into the green, 3-iron, averages, one of the longest hitters in the field, averaged, many hit 1-irons too, and no freaking wedges. So Beeman, with who he's playing, averages 4 wood and finishes tied for second golf tournament. That's how good this little short hitter was around the green. So my point is, Beeman averaged 4 wood, Arnold averaged 3-iron. Arnold was much longer, but the disparity between the 3-iron and the 4 wood is not that great, right? It's just another couple of clubs. It's not 4 clubs, it's 2 clubs, right? You could go 3-iron, 2-iron, 4 wood. So, and so now we have a situation where 2 things are in play. One is the ball is made in such a way that as your swing speed goes from 115 to 130, your distance increase is not linear. It's more exponential, so that if you swing at 130 like Dustin and Brooks can, and you swing at 115 like most of the field does, it's not 2 yards per mile per hour like it is for a recreational player. It's like 4 yards. It's like a little more than 4 yards. So it's disproportionate, the difference between the players, simply because the properties of the ball allow that swing speed of 130 to hit it much further relatively than the guy who swings at 115. So that's a problem where you would point to the ball club combination. Then the second problem is, if only 2 or 3 players can play the golf course properly, then that again says, well, there's a problem with the ball. If the disparity between the longest hitters and the other guys is 4 and 5 clubs, that's too many. And if the winners are hitting 8-iron on average into par 4s and par 3s, that means their game is not being tested. So there's a second reason why you say then, well, the equipment's not regulated to the extent that it needs to be, so that we get to see Brooks hit a 5-iron recovery shot, which we'll never see in the history of the game, which is one of the greatest shots in the history of the game. Without the 5-iron recovery shot, you wouldn't have Walter Hagen or Arnold Palmer or Seve Ballesteros or Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson. You wouldn't have any of those people. It's one of the most thrilling shots in the game because you got to be a really good player to hit the 5-iron from an iffy space 190 yards away from the hole. Now you're on the wrong angle, and the pin's in the wrong place, and you've got the green sloping away from you. Those are great shots. We don't ever see anything like that anymore. And so the recovery shot isn't even a part of the game. So the 5-iron must be reintroduced as the middle club in the bag that you play. If Arnold averaged 3-iron, and that's what he said he averaged in majors, by the way, from 75 to 1955 to 75, said he averaged 3-irons at majors. He said, except for the Masters, which could play shorter depending on the speed of the ground. He said, but otherwise, yeah, definitely 3-iron. And I said, what about, the tour? And he said, yeah, for sure somewhere between 4 and 5. He said, I wasn't hitting a lot of wedges. He said, and I was one of the longest hitters. And he said, for sure between 4 and 5-iron, I'd say over a 20-year period. And, and then you had a tournament where DJ won in Hawaii recently, and he averaged 86 yards for a second shot into par 4s. What was even worse, so that's a lob wedge, averaged 86 yards. Who wants to watch that? And then the real problem was that the field only averaged 114. So that meant the field averaged sand wedge and the winner averaged lob wedge, and I took a nap.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of the things, and unfortunately we got to wrap up, but I just want to say this, and then I want to throw something out there to you. This is one of the things I don't enjoy. Obviously, I watched the Masters because I was excited for Tiger and that, but I don't really watch as much of the tournaments anymore for that very reason that you just mentioned. It's because, you're not really seeing in my opinion, a lot of exciting golf. Shot making, in my opinion, is pretty much dead in today's game. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed as a youngster growing up and watching guys like, Palmer and Nicklaus and Trevino and Chichi Rodriguez and other guys, because they were actually very creative on the golf course. Now it's just bombing out there in a pitching wedge or a lob wedge or something into the green, and that's it. And there's nothing in between. It's just, to me, it's not an exciting game. I enjoy more watching the young ladies on the LPGA and the Symetra Tour because they do play a little bit more of that golf that we used to see, because they simply just don't hit it as far. But even their game is starting to get a little bit longer as well, so we'll see what happens in the future. Peter, I want to thank you for joining me tonight, and I hate to have to close this off because I really have enjoyed listening to you share some great insight to a lot of the players, not only the past players, but obviously about Tiger. But I would like to extend an invitation to have you come back a little bit later on in the season. But what I'd like to do for that show, I would like for you to talk about your views on the instructional side of golf, where you see it today, sort of the do's and the don'ts, the likes and the dislikes, and we'll talk a little bit more about the equipment. I'd really like to get your insight and about training aids and things like that. I know that, again, in your earlier days with the Golf Channel and that, you've seen a lot of the, products and things that have come out over the years. I'd really like to get your thoughts and input in where you see instruction today.
I have very good news for you.
What's
that is a topic and a series of topics that I would be very happy to talk about. We could do that now too. I mean, I think those are very, very important subjects. I very much think that it's something we should go into in some great detail. You're good at setting me up and letting me go where I know we need me to go to make the show as enjoyable for your fans as we can. And so those are really super duper topics because I learned to play a lot of golf from Sebi. I learned to play golf from Sam. I learned to play golf from Arnold. I learned from Gary Player. I mean, I worked with over 500 teachers. So, I invented the hybrid idea. So I'm a good one to have talk about these things. I know a little bit about it, and I'd love to be with you.
Perfect. Well, Peter, I'll consider that a date. We'll set that up, and we're going to continue our conversation in a little bit as well about what you and I were talking about a few weeks back privately. I'm going to continue that conversation with you at a later point, but because I've got some thoughts and ideas about what we were discussing. But Peter, I want to thank you. It truly is an honor and a pleasure to have you join me on the show. Not only are you a wealth of knowledge, but you're an interesting individual to listen to. You just have some great stories and some great insight to the game, and obviously a love and passion not only for the game itself, but for the people that have been a part of it over these many decades. And I really appreciate you bringing it to my audience. And thank you, and God bless you, my friend.
God bless you too, and I love being with you. And it's so nice to be your friend. I'm excited about your new project. I know you're trying to do more and special and different things, and and that's what I love. It's original. Try something new. Do something. Try to think of something nobody's done before. It's like a lot of writers they sit down and they go, okay, let me see you write a sentence that's the best sentence that anybody's ever written. So the excitement of being able to talk about these things and trying to make the best presentation on them to you and your fans and your followers, is a real privilege for me. So I'm delighted to share the information, and I'm excited that you're interested in it, Teddy.
I appreciate it. Well, Peter, thank you again for joining me. Have a great Memorial weekend. Get back to practicing your chipping. And we'll see where that takes you over the weekend. Maybe you'll sink a few or hole a few more out, and definitely take Tiger's advice and go and shorten that putter. Thank you very much, Peter Kessler, have a great weekend.
We did that. That was 11 years ago. So
I
didn't ever want to run into Tiger. I didn't want Christopher to run into Tiger. I was afraid to death he'd hit me. So we took care of that, and I look forward to being with you. And so we're going to get together, and, as Trump says about July 4th, when he sends out a tweet, he goes, July 4th, save the date. And everybody looks at it and goes, what could he possibly do by that? Is he having a party that I'm coming to? What do you mean save the date? I know what July 4th is. Come on. So save the date, Teddy, will you?
I will, for sure. Thank you, Peter.
All right, buddy.
All right, good night. All right, that was Peter Kessler, also known as The Voice, one of the great golf announcers, even to this day. I enjoy listening to him and enjoyed having him as a guest. And obviously we ran a little bit late, so I know some of you, the program towards the end kind of dropped off, but stick around because it will. The recorded version will come out and you'll hear the entirety of the show. And as I said, stick around, and if you listen to the recorded version, just go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or if you listen to the outtake here in just a moment, there are some other great ways you can tune into the program as well. Don't forget to go to golfswing.com immediately after the show and register for their subscription online and enter the promo code Golf Talk Live, and you'll get yourself 50% off the subscription price. So make sure you do that. It's a great online video platform with some great instructors from literally all over the place, and definitely a great platform to do. So on behalf of my special guest tonight, Nicole Weller, and the parents that followed on the show, and my good friend, Mr. Peter Kessler, God bless everybody, and have a great Memorial weekend, and we'll see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.